What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm with 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃, reporter for the Epic Times. And I was very fortunate to have her do a story on me and found out she knows everything there is to know about entertainment, the entertainment world, all the scandals going on right now. That's what you cover at the Epic Times, right?
I do. I cover celebrity news, whether it's good or bad. A lot of celebrity trials, scandals, as you just mentioned, anything to do with celebrity or the entertainment industry. But I do have some really good stories too, like, about focused on you and your path in your career. And so sometimes I get to do fun stories like that, but I do handle a lot of very heavy stories.
So let's get into this. But before we get into it, folks, get your Noble Gold. Noble Gold. Gold has gone up more than 81% in the last 5 years. That's crazy. It is happening. Central banks are ditching the dollar, and U.S. Treasuries are buying more gold. The good news is it is predicted to go up even more. UBS even said it would go up to 5,000. That's insanity. Noble Gold Investments phone has been ringing off the hook nonstop. Everybody wants to protect their retirement with gold. You can do the same, folks. And if you do it this month, Noble Gold Investors will give you a free 1/4 ounce gold standard coin if you open up a qualified account. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com now. Noblegoldinvestments.com. Hit the link below, folks. Hit the link below. All right. So let's get on this, man, because there's so much going on right now that I'm losing track. I'm watching the Drake, Kendrick, Lamar beef. You want to start with that just for a second? Because I feel like that's
reported on that today.
what? Okay.
I just had a story published on that.
What is going on? I know these rappers beef with each other, but what the hell is this? Because to me, there's so much serious stuff going on within the industry, takedown scandals. Is it just a distraction? What's your point? What's your view on this?
It's so weird because I wasn't actually following it, and there have been a lot of people weighing in online. They released within 2 days like 5 tracks each aimed at each other. Kendrick Lamar came on and was talking about how Drake is a groomer and how he has a secret daughter. Just shots fired in every direction.
So wait a minute. Kendrick is saying that out loud about Drake?
Yes, in his raps, he's saying that Drake has
so since this is going on YouTube, I'll have that edited. Let's use that.
Yes. Okay, so he said Drake was a groomer. Kendrick's fans have been coming after Drake. Well, it all came to a head this morning because Drake's London store of 𝗬𝗏, that's his brand and his clothing line, somebody spray painted a Kendrick bar on the window there. They spray painted something from Kendrick's diss track on it. And a few hours before that, this is where it gets really serious. There was a shooting at Drake's house in Toronto.
I saw that.
Did you see that? So what happened was it was at 2 a.m, the security guard was walking around doing his rounds, and there was a drive-by, and he got shot, and he's in the hospital right now.
The security guard got shot?
The security guard got shot. This morning at around 2 a.m., the Toronto police, they sent me a statement. They said, they're canvassing the area. They're looking at video from Drake's house. That house has a lot of video cameras everywhere.
Right. So you're going to be covering this for the Epic Times.
Yeah. And so it was my piece was just published. They're also looking at all of the neighbor security guards, any gas stations, any street cameras that they might have. Now, what the Toronto police said was that they do have a description of the vehicle, but they don't want to release it because they think it's gang related. So now, as you can imagine,
trying to pull this up right now. I'm going to pull this up real quick.
As you can imagine, as soon as something like this happens, there are so many theories that come out online. People online, I've been reading the comments, have been saying on Twitter that Kendrick set it up. And then other people are saying that Drake set it up and that his bodyguard was the mole feeding Kendrick information about him.
So do you think this is going to lead to something like what happened with Tupac and Biggie? I mean, is this where this is headed? To me, this seems like it almost seems orchestrated with everything that's happening right now with P. Diddy and all the scandals. It's almost like they're trying to use smoke and mirrors to take our attention away from something. Do you agree with that?
I do agree in a sense. I hope that it doesn't end up the way that Biggie and Tupac did, because and when that happened, we didn't even have social media back then. We didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Instagram. We were all getting our information from, you know, television, from radio shows, award shows, red carpets. That's the only way we had to get our information. And now it's just like everything is going crazy. But at the same time, you know, Diddy is being looked at federally. You know, he hasn't been charged with anything yet federally, but he has 4 assault civil cases in New York. Now, Diddy has connections. People work with him. They know him. He's been in the industry. I have said from the beginning of this whole Diddy thing, when the 𝗀𝗃cie news first broke and he settled with 𝗀𝗃cie, I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many people connected to Diddy that are going to go down if he starts talking, and we're going to hear some very big names.
He's like the Epstein of the entertainment world, right?
He's the Epstein of the hip hop world. You know, Epstein, he was just a little flash in the pan. You know, there's so many more people that haven't even been investigated that are way more powerful than Jeffrey Epstein ever was, and their names haven't even been brought out into the public. And I think we're going to see that happen with Diddy.
Do you think maybe, and I don't think anything happens by accident. Do you think maybe, you know, you have 50 Cent calling out P. Diddy, you got Cat Williams as the first one who really came out and just whacked the wasp's nest, right? And so I'm thinking about this. I'm going, these guys just wouldn't just do that. I don't think they would just come out and just say, I'm going for broke here, unless they knew the dominoes were coming down. And you've heard Cat Williams say this many times on that when he was on Club Shay Shay. You know, you can't party with Diddy. Nobody parties with Diddy. And then he's throwing Diddy under the bus. And the way he's doing it seems to me like he was sat down maybe and told like what to say and that he's protected. Maybe how could this guy ever even think about doing this just off a whim and just hope that things go right unless you know you're protected? He had to know this was coming. He had to know all of this was coming, and he was sat down and talked to and said, "You're going to be the one that spills the beans on Club Shay Shay." What do you think about my theory?
That's an interesting theory, that maybe that they had something on Cat Williams and they said, you better start talking right now, and you better get loud and you better get public, or else you're going down too. I don't know, because that hasn't come out, but that's a very interesting theory. And I think a lot of people that are turning on Diddy right now, they are connected. You know, we've heard so many names. We've heard Jay-Z. People are talking about Jay-Z all the time, saying that.
What about Shaq? I mean, P. Diddy called out Shaq's name, Shaq and his whole family.
LeBron James too. There were old clips of him at Diddy's parties, or he's like, "Ain't no party like a Diddy party." That's really weird, because you have the Diddy party and you have the party after the party. So who was at the party after the party? Ashton Kutcher
I've done a lot of partying in my lifetime. Yeah. I've done a lot of partying, and I'm going to tell you right now, I never went to the weird stuff. I've been invited to a lot of stuff. I've been to some swinger stuff. I walked out. I was like, this ain't for me. But I never went to the weirder and weirdest. You know what I mean? I always just stayed right. I had my boundaries, but I partied a lot at the Playboy Mansion, and I found out later on, I was like, what, dude? Like, I knew people that were getting blackmailed from there. I knew personally people that were in singing groups and boy bands that were getting busted and caught on camera doing stuff and blackmailed. And I couldn't believe the stuff I was hearing. And I heard there was surveillance all over that place. So then I find out later that there's like tunnels and stuff, and this is just rumors. I don't know for sure, but I started catching on to this like 15 years ago. And now with all this stuff coming down, I mean, are these all operations, all these like sting houses?
Everything is connected, you know, in Hollywood and in politics. Everybody knows everybody in some way, or you know somebody that knows that person. We saw with Epstein that it's a not so secret, I don't want to say society, but I don't know another word to use, of these sort of abusers, people that are using, and not even child, also could women, grown women, that are using their positions of power to get what they want. And a lot of times they're promising these girls, like, we'll give you, like Harvey Weinstein, we'll give you a part in a movie. Diddy, I'll put you on my album, I'll make you a star, you know.
But so are they really victims? I mean, can you really say they're victims if they know? what they're getting into? Because I don't think that's a victim.
It's a
If someone's like, "Hey,
manipulation
listen, you'll
tactic.
get the fight you want, the dream fight, you'll get all the money you want, but you got to come to my bedroom with me, and hey, you know what you got to do." And I do that. Hey,
Yeah,
I willingly
you
did
put
that.
yourself there. Absolutely. I think it's the ones where there was one audio tape that was released. It has not been released to the public, but it was released to some press from Diddy's yacht, where one of the women who was suing his son, you know, Diddy, he had his assistant tape everything. There were constantly audio tapes and videotapes in every corner of his house. I guess he was trying to protect himself, maybe like you said, to blackmail people, who knows?
Have
Or
dirt
to
on everybody.
protect himself from theft, or if someone accuses him of something, well, listen, it's coming back to haunt him, because one of those was actually part of one of the documents. And the
Or just
girl
if
is,
anybody decides to go against him on a, or
yeah.
decides to like,
But this one girl, she was a waitress on the yacht, and she was a non-willing participant. You can hear her. Now, it hasn't been verified whether or not that's her voice, but it is a woman's voice with Christian, Diddy's son, and she's saying, "Take your hands off me! No, no, don't touch me." That's bad.
yeah, that is bad. Obviously,
That's
yeah.
bad. Yeah, that's not gonna look good for him.
So I keep hearing, you know, Will Smith's name thrown into the. You know, I don't know, but there's a lot of. I mean, we know they're all probably implicated in some way.
Sure.
You know, I have a good friend, and I guess I'll name drop right now, 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃, right? The one that played in Sound of Freedom and in Passion of the Christ. Now that guy stays away from all of this stuff. Like this guy doesn't even go near it. He's told me some stories that I'm just like, wow, it's rampant. And it's almost like everybody you hang out with wants to be the one to try to get dirt on you in this industry, to try to have something on you so they can hold power over you. Does that make sense?
Of course. No, of course. And even me, and I'm not even anybody big, but even me, sometimes if I go live or I do live streams, people will record it and cut it up and make it seem like I'm saying something and being like, "Oh, she's a racist." People just want to bring people down. I have a hard time believing Will Smith. People have so much hate for him, and I still don't quite understand why. I haven't seen any proof of anything with Will Smith involving him. I haven't, you know, just people have been saying rumors about him. I really haven't seen one.
I think the whole
one person.
Go ahead.
One person that really I do believe is Ashton Kutcher. He seems to surround himself with a lot of people who abuse others. You know, he wrote letters in support of Danny Masterson when Danny was being sentenced. He has been a huge supporter of P. Diddy. He hangs around P. Diddy.
But doesn't Ashton Kutcher have like a child trafficking organization that saves children?
He did. He had to step down as the head of it after that letter that he wrote in support of Danny Masterson, who was convicted.
Hold on. So what are you telling me right now that we can allegedly say that maybe that's just a cover and it wasn't, maybe it was never real, or maybe it was just used to traffic children?
It could be. It could be. You know, it was very shocking to see him write that letter. Like, I don't care how close I am with someone or if they're my friend, if they have like a secret life that comes to terms and they're convicted of a horrible crime, I'm stepping away from that person. I'm not writing a letter, especially with a crime like rape. And he was convicted with a lot of evidence, Danny Masterson, and he's doing time right now. And Ashton Kutcher was one of those people, him and Mila Kunis. They wrote letters saying, you know, go easy on him. He's a good guy.
Mila Kunis just stepped down as well. No, that was wait. Jessica Alba stepped down.
Jessica Alba, that's a different one. She stepped down to concentrate on other projects. She was
wasn't she mentioned with P. Diddy though?
I don't remember seeing her name in all of the stories because I've written about this extensively since Cassie's case. And I don't remember seeing Jessica Alba being pulled into this. She stepped down from the Honest Company because, you know, that company had just gotten so big. You see it, it's at Target, at Walmart, everywhere. And she just wanted to get back into acting. But Ashton Kutcher had to step down as the head of his own foundation, the one that he founded, where he went to Congress and testified in Congress about human trafficking with children. saying that his job was to protect women and children. And then he turns around and he writes a letter in support of a.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
That's just, I mean, so all of these, I mean, I've heard some crazy stuff, right? And I've heard there's a lot of fronts in this business, a lot of fronts. Like, you know, where it's almost like, where do pederasts hang out? They hang out at schools, they hang out in playgrounds, right? That's where these pederasts hang out. But what better cover than a organization that takes care of children, that protects? I'm just saying, why would you cover for somebody like that and then have to step down? Is Ashton Kutcher even out is his voice being heard right now? Is he even out voicing anything, or is he just radio silent right now?
Well, after the Danny Masterson letter, listen, if you write, especially in a celebrity case, if you're writing a letter asking the judge for leniency and telling them what a great guy your friend is, especially case, that's going to be made public. You know, everything that happens in court is public record. He had to know that that was going to come out and that he was going to receive some backlash. And when you read the letters that people wrote in support of him, it's disgusting. He's a really good guy. You don't know. I've known him forever. He regrets what he did. He didn't mean, like, he's not even denying that these women, he's just saying he regretted it and he's a really good guy and he normally wouldn't have done anything like this.
Normally he doesn't do these things, but when he gets drunk,
this was just one or two times.
It just happens when he, you know, when he drinks a couple beers. Wow, like, man. I just.
So you're right, though. I mean, what better way to have access to children than to start a foundation for children? What better way to have access to victims who are already suffering and are already needing a lot of therapy? Because as we know, a lot of times victims become victims over and over and over again because they don't understand boundaries and trust with people, you know. So
they insert themselves into these programs for them, or these organizations, to where they can keep abusing them.
Yeah. And also, I mean, casting directors, the casting couch has been thrown around. That phrase has been thrown around in Hollywood since the beginning of Hollywood, since silent film eras, you know. But it's, when people bring it to light, I think it's just like those certain cases that do go public where people are tried in court or there are allegations, but it's happening every day. We're just not seeing all of it. Like, it's a big problem.
Where do you think this is all going to lead? I mean, there's so much going on right now. I mean, and another thing I wanted to talk to you about, well, first off, where do you see this? I almost feel something's telling me not to trust all of this. I feel like there's an ulterior psyop being ran here, or there's some kind of program being ran. As a distraction. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think, I just feel like it's like smoke and mirrors for something bigger that they don't want us to pay attention to?
I always hear in journalism that don't pay attention to the big story. Pay attention to the story that they're trying to bury. And there's so many stories out there right now that people are trying to bury, that, you know, it's like you see this huge thing happen and it's in the news for like 2 days. And then the next thing there's something else happen and you forget about that.
So and what do you think?
You mentioned 𝗔𝗶𝗶𝗹, and, you know, I remember watching interviews with him a couple of years ago when Sound of Freedom came out, and he was talking about people trafficking children, and I'm thinking, this is just something you see on TV. And then I started looking into it and I'm like, oh my God, this is everywhere. It's your neighbor, it's the teachers, it's the churches, the
did you see the fifth grade teacher? The fifth grade teacher just got busted making out with a fifth grader. I mean, a teacher. You would look at her and be like, you know, she's a nice lady. She's engaged. She's gonna get married. She's making out with a 11-year-old.
You can't trust your kids with anybody. You can't trust your kids with anybody. You can't. Not a babysitter, not an uncle, not an aunt, not a teacher, not an after-school teacher, not a sports instructor, not
because that's where they hang out.
That's where they hang out. If you want access to kids, where do you go? A school.
A playground. A PE playground. Man.
It's everywhere.
And we can't throw all teachers under the bus because there's some good ones.
There's some really good teachers, and they
There's
do a
there's
great
good
job.
ones.
There
But I
are.
mean, man, too
It's
bad that
very.
one apple rots the bunch, right?
It does. It's unfortunate because now, especially for me as a mom, I'm like, not only do I have to worry about the other kids, bullying my son and maybe beating him up or whatever on the playground, or my son getting it, I got to worry about the teachers now.
Jeez.
Like, that's crazy. And like, again, 𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃, when he came out and started talking about this, everyone went, he's crazy. He's taking this too far. He's an extremist. He didn't take it far enough. If
I
Cy
agree.
could tell you some of the things that I have seen writing some of these articles, it makes you sick to your stomach. I have lost sleep over some of these
Oh
things.
yeah, I believe me. That's another reason. I don't know if you knew this, but I had a viral video that hit in 2020 talking about this stuff. That's why the whole reason I got launched into the podcast business. But I I've always thought like in my opinion, that when I heard stories in Hollywood and stuff like that, I'm like, well, they're willing participants if they're going there and to the actor's couch or the whatever, and they're putting themselves into that situation. They've got to know. Everyone knows this. And when I was coming up in boxing and I was in that scene, everybody knew. Everybody knew, but I guess they didn't. I guess the people on the outside really didn't know. Like, you really thought talent got you there? Talent only gets you so far.
Well, look at some of the people in Hollywood and who are singers right now. You're like, how did they get a deal?
Yeah.
Like, how did this person get on TV? They can't act their way out of a paper bag. How did this person get a record deal? They can't sing. They can't even dance. It makes you think, doesn't it?
What's your thoughts? And I know you're unlimited time here, but what's your thoughts on clones? What's your thoughts on people talking about Kanye being a clone? I mean, listen, we thought everything was pretty outlandish 40 years ago with everything that's happening now. Could this be a conspiracy that people catch up to in 4 years from now? And it turns out to be like, oh, yeah, I knew that dude's clone. I mean, you have Jim Brewer coming out
Barbara
talking about.
Streisand, she cloned her dead dog. I mean, weirder things have happened. You know what I mean? And at this point, I never thought that like last year they would have a whole congressional hearing admitting that UFOs are real. And it happened.
Yeah.
I'm not, at this point in 2024, nothing's off the table. You know what I mean? Kanye's not acting like Kanye. He doesn't look like Kanye.
And he even said something. He even said, if I leave and don't come back, it ain't me. It's not me.
Right.
Or if I leave for a while and I come, that's what he said. If I leave for a period of time and I come back, it's not me.
Right. People said that about Ryan Garcia too. They keep calling him a clone, that they kidnapped him and cloned him.
Ryan Garcia said some crazy stuff out there, man. I mean, I
he is absolutely, and he just tested positive for steroids for his fight.
So. Right. But listen, I'm in the game. I was in the game, and more people than you know use that stuff. So it's just who cheats better.
Right. I mean, it could be a Kanye clone. Again, he looks so different. He sounds the same. He's kind of acting a little Kanye-ish. But at the same time, again, nothing is off the table, especially when it comes to celebrities who have unlimited money. You got millions and millions and millions of dollars. You can clone yourself.
I don't know. I have a theory on this. I feel like they use face analyzations with all the cameras that are all over the place. I think they probably knock on somebody's door and say, guess what? You're the lucky winner. And that person says, what are you talking about? And they're like, you match up with old Kanye here, or you match up with Biden, and looks like we're gonna have to use you for a while. You're gonna have to do something good for your country, and they're probably just thrown off. I mean, I don't think that's too crazy to say.
It's not.
I think that's probably that's a lot more probable than the clone thing.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely happen. I mean, celebrities have body doubles and decoys all the time for the press and for their fans. It's not unusual, especially when you see them like hiding their faces like that. Yeah. A lot of times it is decoys when they can go out the back door and they don't get hounded and they can go do what they need to do. This is politicians probably do too, though.
I just think they're using face recognition on a lot of people. And they're like, oh, we found a match in Iowa. Let's get to Iowa and knock on so-and-so's door, pull them out of his house.
Imagine that you're sitting at home and all of a sudden they're like, hey, we need you to step in and be Taylor Swift for a week. Like,
I,
what?
yeah, you don't have to do anything but wave at people in your car, and then
Yeah.
I mean, why? And then you
Okay.
sign an NDA, and I don't think this is off the table. I think this is.
It's not. No, of course not.
Well, listen, Jessamine, man, I know you're busy. I know you got some reporting to do for the Epic Times. I really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you on more.
I would love to come back on, especially school's out in like 2 weeks, so I'm just running to pick up my kid. I got a lot of free time. I work from home, so I'm good.
Let's do another show. I think
I would
people are
love
gonna
to.
love
We have a
this.
lot to talk about, especially we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that we can get into more on the entertainment side, because I do so much research. I spend hours and hours a day digging through court documents and talking to people and representatives and agents and movie heads. And it's just the stuff that we can
And
have a good talk.
there's gonna be a hell of a lot more scandals coming out. It's gonna get crazier. And I
It
think
is.
as we approach the fall, which we all know what's coming in the fall,
Election.
November, yeah, and I think this is about to pick up speed. It's about to get just explosive. So,
Well, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on the Eric Adult case too.
okay, yeah. So I'll bring you back on. Thank you. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗹 Dodd, same with Instagram. And also at the Epic Times, you can search for 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗀. You'll see all my stories there.
All right, folks. Epic Times, 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗀. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you later, Jesse.